might know me as the kid in the wheelchair because I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy at 18 months old. I'm going to share with you my experience in the healthcare system, growing up different, and what it's like living life on wheels. Alongside some of the people that have had an impact on my world, as well as the world of disability, I'm having those difficult and sometimes ridiculous conversations that reframe the way we think about disability. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to The Kid in the Wheelchair. My name is John Gilroy, and today I wanted to address something that is very, very important to me. Everything I talk about on this podcast is important to me, obviously, or I wouldn't bring it up, but this is very important to me, and that is the topic of mental health. Mental health, especially when it comes to people with disabilities, is something that's really not talked about in our society. And also, as an aside, it is important to also point out that there are certain mental health diagnoses that do also qualify as disabilities. So there are individuals, met with mental health disabilities. So I'm hoping in the future on this podcast, I can interview individuals and really highlight those because it's something that I think needs to be talked about, needs to be addressed, and needs to be destigmatized in our society. I think mental health has a huge stigma on it when it really shouldn't, because when you think about it, when we're sick, we go to the doctor, right? And we get our body taken care of, right? So when there's something going on with our mental health, when something's not right, why don't we address it? Sometimes we don't address it because we feel like people are going to judge us for acknowledging that something is going on. I'm hoping that with this episode and future episodes, I can help to kind of get rid of that stigma. And for all of you watching and listening, I hope you understand that it is okay to ask for help. It is okay to say, I need help. It's okay to not be okay, So with that said, I want to share a story with all of you about a time in my life when I was probably at my lowest point. And that was when I was a sophomore in high school. So this was 2009, 2010. Whew. I was 16 years old at the time when this first started. And that year, I started getting relentlessly bullied every day at lunch. It was nonstop. Basically, the person who spearheaded this whole bullying campaign, what it was centered around was the way that my left hand moved. So you can see, it's delayed in comparison with my right here. And he liked to, let's say my lunch was here. He loved to knock things off the table on my left side, like a pencil or something, and make me bend over and grab it with my left hand. And for the sake of his privacy, I will not mention his name or anyone else who was involved. But anyway, he enjoyed knocking that pencil over and watching me pick it up or try and pick it up and laugh and laugh and laugh and encourage others at the table to laugh at how my hand was moving as I was trying to pick things up. And there was other things, a lot of other things, and I'll be honest with you, I've kind of tried to push that into the back of my mind, but that is one thing that I definitely remember on the forefront of my mind. And I think the thing that hurt the most was there were people at my lunch table who, I had been friends with for a long time, and a lot of them did not intervene in this. And I look back, and I think also part of the reason why they may not have intervened is because I was laughing along with it. And that's something that still kind of perplexes me, but I know why. I know why I did it. Because at that point in my life, I used humor as a shield. Because I think when you have a disability, especially a disability that is so visible as mine is, society teaches you that you have to be this happy-go-lucky, you have to be this inspirational, brave, anything to make non-disabled people feel good around you and not feel awkward. That's what you have to be. You have to be inspiring. You have to be this person that always smiles, that makes people laugh, that you just have to be. It's like robotic. It's almost robotic. And I don't think I ever really realized the extent to which I was performing this identity to preserve people's view of me up until now. What really was the pivotal point, that's the word I'm looking for, in all of this was one day, and I will put this up on the screen so y'all can see. One day, I was at lunch, and I had my journals with me. At that point, I had started journaling, and I wrote in my journal, I can't remember the exact words, but it was something along the lines of, "Hey guys, I'm feeling like no one here likes me anymore, but I know that's not true, but that's how I feel." And I passed it around to everyone at my lunch table, right? No one reacted. These are people that I had known for years. No one reacted. But there was one person who reacted. His name was Brett Wilson. Shout out to Brett. Love you, brother. Brett read that, pulled me outside of the cafeteria and said, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on, man?" And I told him, I don't want to go back in there. I don't want to go back in there because I'm scared. Right now, I'm really scared that I'm going to hurt myself. And I don't want to hurt myself. But I just get bullied so much, and I'm just not in a place where I feel like I can handle it. And he said, "All right, man, hold on. We are going to go down to the social worker's office." So that began a tradition of every day at lunch, instead of spending lunch in the lunchroom with, all my friends that I had lunch with, or at that time, Brett and I would walk down to the West APO in Arlington High School and have lunch with the school social worker. It was, I'll put up the picture. You can see every day I would carry Brett's brisk in my cup holder, and I would hold his, I think it was a bagel or a hard roll or something. It just became like this iconic image. Now looking back, it's such an iconic image to me because it's the image of a friend who cared enough to say, I'm going to do something about this, And that was something truly, truly special. As far as my therapeutic journey goes, that's something that I definitely want to take a deep dive into in future episodes. I'm in the process right now of trying to nail down an interview with the social worker that I worked with. But I learned a lot about myself in that year to 2 years of time in very intensive therapy. I learned that, like I said earlier, I had performed so much of wanting to always be happy, feeling like I always had to smile, I always had to make people laugh, I always had to just be this inspiration, like you've heard the term inspiration porn, like I had to exist as like this thing for people to feel good about. I could not let myself be sad ever. And I realized through therapy that I never even let myself have moments where I did look in the mirror and say, like, why me? Why was I given this disability? And on top of the disability, at that point in my life, I also knew that I was gay. So it was like this double-edged sword that it was like, I have to hide all these things from people. And I cannot feel. I have to put on this mask, and exist behind this mask in order to make other people feel comfortable with who I am. And that realization only happened during the first session I had with the school social worker. I went into his office and we're talking. Next thing you know, and now I know because I have my degree in social work, I now know that this next thing that he did was actually taking a huge risk as a social worker in terms of developing that therapeutic relationship with your client. So, like I said, we're talking. Next thing I know, he scoots over in his chair and he kind of leans over and he puts his hands on his lap and he looks me in my eyes. And the next thing he says is, "You mean to tell me that you've never had a day where you have said, 'Why the fuck me? Why me?' Come on, John. We all know you have. Cut the shit." And with that, my shoulders dropped. And I remember I just started bawling, just like this waterfall, waves of tears. And then it was almost as if I was outside of my body, because it was almost as if the floodgates opened and just words and things that I had never vocalized started just pouring out. And it was in that moment that I realized I had never truly come to terms with the gravity of my disability and what it meant to me to have this disability. So through therapy, I learned that it is okay to have why me moments. It's something I like to say. I learned this from the therapist that I worked with. Shout out to Mr. Bab. I'm hoping to get him on here. But he said to me, it's okay to look in the rearview mirror, but don't look for too long because you might get in an accident. And another thing he said to me is people will be who they want to be, not who you want them to be. So throughout the therapeutic process, I learned that it is okay to have moments where I feel weak, where I feel like I need help, where I feel like I can't be this picture perfect, inspirational, blah, 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 everything. And that is why I also say this in my talks. It taught me this. I think you've all heard that term. You can wake up in the morning and choose to be happy or choose to be sad, right? I think Oprah loves that statement. A lot of people love that. You can wake up in the morning, you can choose to be happy, or you can choose to be sad. And I am here to tell you why that is the biggest load of bullshit you will ever hear. Because if you wake up in the morning and you're not feeling good, right? You're not feeling good. You're not feeling yourself. So if you wake up and you say, I don't feel myself, I'm really sad right now, I'm going through a lot of emotions, but I'm choosing to be happy. What are you essentially doing with that choice? You're putting a mask on, right? You're putting a mask on. So on the mask, you're smiling. But underneath that mask, you could be crying underneath that mask. The mask doesn't change the reality of your situation underneath it. So the only way to truly be happy is to have a truly shitty day and be completely okay with it. Does that make sense? Because when we feel emotions fully, we're able to work past them. That's part of what I learned, where it's called the cycle of emotions, right? So if I'm feeling sad or feeling angry, let's use sad as an example. So if I'm feeling sad and I say, no, I'm going to be happy no matter what, right? And I push that sadness away. What happens is that sadness gets placed on this cycle. And this cycle exists in a circle. And it goes all the way around, right? And eventually, that sadness is going to come back around. Now, when that sadness comes back around, it could show itself as sadness again, and it could be 10 times worse. Or that sadness can show itself as anger, and it can express itself towards someone in our lives that we had no intention of showing anger towards. But that sadness that we did not deal with in the initial moments of its existence is now expressing itself as anger towards someone else. So, an important message here is that your emotions, your thoughts, feelings, and emotions matter. Whatever you are feeling in the moment, feel it. Feel it to its fullest extent, because that is the only way you will be able to fully work through that emotion. Ladies and gentlemen, I get asked so often, what is the meaning of happiness? How do you define happiness? Now, I said earlier that happiness is having a really shitty day and being completely okay with it. That's one way, yes. But also, I always tell people, happiness is getting yourself to a point where you are able to sit at the table with your traumas, with all the things in your life that have caused you pain, right? That you are able to sit at the dinner table with all of them, acknowledge they exist, acknowledge their impact on your life, and not flip the table over. Because you have now gotten to a point where you have allowed yourself to feel the pain, to feel the sadness, to feel the loneliness, to feel whatever emotions those things have caused. That those things no longer dictate your actions. Those things no longer have power over you. You can now sit at the table with them and say, I acknowledge you. You are part of me. That is powerful. And I wish that for every single one of you watching and listening to this. Now, the process of getting there, is it easy? Absolutely not. Circling back to the beginning, the beginning of this episode, I talked about when I was bullied. There is so much pain that goes into getting to a point of self-awareness. It really requires a lot of discomfort, a lot of vulnerability, but the only way that you can heal properly. Think about it this way. When you have a wound, right? You don't just bandage it up if it's a significant wound, right? Because it couldn't get infected and get all gross. And so what you have to do to heal that wound properly, sometimes you got to peel back the scab, right? You got to kind of peel it back and clean out all the dirt that's inside that wound, right? And it's going to be painful. But in the end, that wound is going to heal properly. It's going to heal properly. You are going to heal properly. I will close with this. I'm assuming every single one of you watching and listening have put a puzzle together in your lifetime at some point. Now, take a look around you. Not if you're driving. Pay attention to the road. But you yourself and every single person you pass in this world is their own puzzle piece. You each have your own shape, your own size, and all the colors on top. Those are all aspects of your identity. So, if your shape was different, would you fit into the puzzle? No. If your size was different, would you fit into the puzzle? Nope. If the colors on top were different, you'd fit into the puzzle, but the picture would be messed up. Now, here's the most important thing. If your puzzle piece was not here physically, with everything that it brings, what would be in that puzzle? A hole. A hole that can never be replaced by anyone but you. That is your value. That is your power. And that is something, sadly, that this world is not built to teach us, disabled or non-disabled. And every day we have to wake up and say, I matter. What I bring to the table matters. If ever there is a point in your life where you feel like no one hears you, no one sees you, no one cares about you, no one loves you, I want you to come back to this episode. I want you to scroll to this point. Let's see, where are we right now? We're about 27 minutes in and change. I want you to scroll here, and I want you to listen. Because I care. I see you. I hear you. You are valuable. I want to thank you from the deepest depths of my heart for tuning in to this very, very, very special episode that is very near and dear to my heart. Remember, y'all are valuable. Y'all are irreplaceable. Remember to like and subscribe, leave a comment, and tell some people about this. Let's grow our community so that together we can all have conversations that are so important to bringing this world together. Love y'all. I'll see you next week. Peace.